Madam President, today the Senate will take the first step towards passing the Great American Outdoors Act with the vote to invoke cloture on the motion to proceed to the House bill that will be used as the underlying legislative vehicle. The majority of my Senate colleagues have co-sponsored this bill, and we have an incredible opportunity to enact this important bipartisan legislation. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that our nation is in turmoil and hurting. We are still very much in the midst of both a health and economic crisis, and this weekend we saw millions of people join peaceful demonstrations in communities across the country. It is so important that we in Congress take action, and I'm so pleased that we have returned to legislating. There is no shortage of important businesses for us to address as a body. The Great American Outdoors Act will create jobs while protecting and expanding access to the great outdoors across our country for everyone, whether it be hunting, fishing, or hiking in the Monongahela National Forest in my great state of West Virginia, or rafting down the Gauley River, or learning about Civil War history, just to give a few examples of my home state, West Virginia has to offer. This is a legacy that we can all pass down to our grandchildren and generations to come. And it's been a long time coming. I want to thank my good friend, Senator Lisa Murkowski, for working with us through the committee process. I'd also like to thank my colleagues, Senator Gardner, Senator Warner, and Daines, Cantwell, Portman, King, Alexander, and Heinrich for their work over many years on the Land Water Conservation Fund, or as we call it, LWCF, and deferred maintenance bills that are now joined together as the Great American Outdoors Act. LWCF, this bill would realize a goal that so many of us in this body have fought hard to attain for so long, to provide permanent mandatory funding for the Land Water Conservation Fund at its fully authorized level of $900 million annually. Last year, the Senate passed a public lands package by an overwhelming vote of 92-8 that permanently authorized the LWCF, the most successful land conservation program in our nation's history. A vote that bipartisan is unfortunately unheard of today and speaks to the overwhelming popularity of conservation programs in every state in the country. The day after we secured permanent authorization of LWCF, I made it clear that our next hurdle was achieving mandatory full funding. The Great American Outdoors Act includes the LWCF mandatory funding bill that I introduced, and along with a lot of help from all my friends on both the Democrat and Republican side. We had strong bipartisan support for mandatory LWCF funding, with the majority of the Senate co-sponsoring the bill, and a strong bipartisan vote coming out of committee. We need to secure this funding because since the LWCF was established 55 years ago, over $22 billion, think about that, over $22 billion have been deposited in the LWCF fund, but was never appropriated and went into the Treasury. And although every state, territory, and almost every county has benefited from LWCF, it has only been fully funded twice in the 55-year history. Only twice have we gotten full funding. Think what we could have done with that $22 billion. Despite that, the LWCF has been able to do wonderful things with the funds that have been appropriated, which in recent years have averaged about half of the authorized funding level, and in previous years even less than that. Just imagine what we can achieve for our country with this full funding. The LWCF is the primary conservation funding tool that helps provide public access for hunting and fishing and recreational use of public lands. It also helps fund state and local parks. It helps maintain working forests through the Forest Legacy Program. It protects historic battlefields through the American Battlefield Protection Program. And it helps landowners voluntarily protect habitat for endangered species. Permanent LWCF funding will help improve access to public lands, including providing important access for hunting and fishing opportunities, and will ensure the program remains an important contributor to a strong and growing outdoor recreation economy that will benefit state and local economies throughout our nation. A recent analysis from Boston University shows that at full funding of $900 million a year, the LWCF could support approximately 15,000 to 28,000 jobs at a time when our country needs them most. Passing permanent LWCF funding authorization last year was an important step, and we are so close to realizing the ultimate goal of fully fulfilling the original intent of the LWCF program and securing a permanent, dedicated funding source for the multiple conservation programs funded by the LWCF. The Great American Outdoors Act also includes $9.5 billion for a deferred maintenance project on federal lands, with 70% of that amount dedicated for our national parks. Senators Portman, Warner, Alexander, and King, and many others have worked so hard on that original legislation, and I was proud to co-sponsor and support it as it went through the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee. The legislation will be the most significant reduction ever in eliminating a major portion the deferred maintenance backlog on our national parks and public lands. The impact of failing to fund parks maintenance for so long is clear to see. Last summer, I visited Pearl Harbor with my family, and I was incredibly disappointed to see the state of disrepair it was in. With faded and torn signs, audio displays, lights not working, it was an embarrassment. The infrastructure projects that will be funded through this bill are critical to protecting many of our national treasures, and like the LWCF funding, will provide a significant benefit to the outdoor recreation economy. The National Park Service estimates that investing in deferred maintenance projects will create more than 40,000 direct infrastructure-related jobs and over 100,000 total jobs. And that's just for deferred maintenance projects at our national parks. This bill includes funding for maintenance projects at other land management and Bureau of Indian Education schools, so the total number of jobs created by this bill will be much higher. The Great American Outdoors Act will help us to be good stewards of our public lands, while at the same time creating thousands of new jobs, a bipartisan win-win, which we should have more of. We have broad bipartisan support with 60 senators signing on, which is representative of how important these bills are to every state and every county in every state. We have support from the administration and unwavering support from over 850 conservation and sportsman groups throughout the nation. It is a shining example of Democrats and Republicans coming together to put politics aside to do what is best for conserving the natural resource of this great nation. Passage of this bill will be a historic achievement, and I believe this will be one of the most significant conservation bills ever enacted into law. What a legacy all of us can walk away with and look at our children and grandchildren to come and thinking we had a part of something this great. I urge all of my colleagues to join me in voting yes to invoke cloture this evening and begin consideration of the Great American Outdoors Act. Thank you, Madam President.